I grew up with a mindset, being raised in the US, Filipino, Indian family, parenting, very much, extraordinary pressures to be perfect, pressures to have the straight A's, pressures to succeed in every area of life. And, the pressures of you can do it on your own. You don't need any sort of coaching. We didn't even know what coaching was. I mean, I didn't even know what coaching was until, like 5 years ago, actually. And so, when you grow up with that sort of cultural mindset that you're all you have, or, keep it in the family, it kind of, it shapes your reality in the world. And so, I grew up with a very science mindset, obviously being Filipino and Indian. And growing up in the States, it's coming from first-generation immigrant family. The idea is to succeed and to drive a legacy and leave a legacy better than your, forefathers, your ancestors. And obviously, we're kind of in a changing melting pot. And so for myself, my background is science. I had a psychology background, and then I went into dentistry. So I did the whole traditional role. I did the whole traditional path of, being a doctor, I became a cosmetic dentist. So not even just a general dentist. It had to be even better than that. It had to be all about symmetry and, psychology and, the stigma in the States of being, a dentist or, doctor, dentist is very much of, honor, pride, and, you have this sort of badge that validates you that you are this, part of greatness in the world, that you know all the right answers, that you know everything. So when there's things that come up in our lives that challenge us, we're supposed to know everything, and we're not supposed to share anything. And so this was the mindset that I had, a very, left-brained, I had a very left-brain mindset, of very factual, very, process-oriented. It had to be right because that's what my mindset was validated on so much. And so, I think even after I graduated, a lot of times people never even think I'm a doctor. They would think I'm a nurse, which is like the worst, sorry for the nurses that are watching, but that was like the worst blow for me because it's like, oh my gosh, I studied so hard and now you're putting me in this category where I would literally have people call me, okay, doctor. It's like, nope, it's Dr. Neeta. And it's like, I look like I'm 15, but then I would demand them. So it was like, there was a lot of ego for me. Like I had to prove something because I was going into a field that didn't really have very many, female leaders or female practitioners. And then also, obviously this child prodigy or this, very Asian parental upbringing kind of taught me that, okay, entrepreneurship was the way to go. So I started, my business early on. I started my dental practice early on, very early on, actually, maybe, less than 2 years outside of dental school. And so, a lot of things kind of happened. A lot of points that occurred in my life, happened that really shaped my decision-making, shaped who I was. And we can get into the realness of why I created this book. But, to sum it up, before I was 19, I was an orphan. I had lost my mother, my brother, and my father to medical diseases. And it was because of these medical diseases, mostly around emotional health and mental well-being, that really set me on a path of really wanting to discover the why behind the decisions that we make. And fast forward then, it would lead me to even meet my ex-husband and enter into a marriage that, really taught me so much about resilience, self-love, because it was a very toxic and very dysfunctional relationship. Coupled with all of that, it would really set the tone for trying to understand why, as leaders, why so many of us make the same types of decisions. And I was so hungry for psychology ever since I was 15 years old, raising my younger brothers and, watching my mom die of cancer and trying to make my father happy, because from an Asian family, that's all you know. All you know is, okay, things aren't going right. How do you make your parents or your family happy? So you sacrifice your happiness for the sake of others. We all kind of relate to certain pearls in our story, certain elements in our story that really shape us and make us more human. And I think getting real with that was something that was really terrifying for me, number one, because I come from a very nope, and if you show a sign of vulnerability, that means you're weak. So, you know, having to have it all together, having to be pretty and to achieve and to do all these things was so much pressure where I literally collapsed. Collapsed not in a physical sense, but in an internal sense of saying, wow, the way that I was living my life, the way that I was actually governing this idea of what perfection, what success meant, was completely all distorted. And this led me on this journey and path to over 45 different countries, really studying with so many different healers, teachers, monks, scientists from all over the world. And then of course it led me to coaching to really understand that we have several different behaviors that we have as humans. And led me to create Emotional Grit, because that's really the missing piece that unites every single one of us. And my story, yes, it's, you know, it's heartbreaking, it's inspiring, it's all of these things, but what I was missing in that whole piece, and what I see so many other leaders, doesn't matter how successful you are, what is missing is that realness of your emotional IQ, your emotional intelligence.